All right, welcome into the second episode of The Blueprint here with my guy, Devin Gardner. I am Jake Butt. Had a great episode week one. Really appreciate all you guys sharing everything on social media. As always, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. This is the second episode of what's going to be a number of outstanding episodes, and we love the engagement on social media. We're at The Blueprint UM on all platforms. DG, man, it's great to see you. Before we get into the Michigan stuff, I want to kind of give you the floor here, man. You kicked off the football season week 0 last night. Great to see you on the call. You brought Jack Tuttle up in the booth with you. How did that go? How does it feel to have football finally here?
Oh, man, it's perfect, man, because, this is what we live for. We just suffer all the rest of the time. Even,
Right.
You do other leagues, all that. It's nothing like college football. So you can't wait for it to get here. And then, it's you get that feeling like you're about to play again, right? Like
Yeah.
that, how you like it's here, it's getting closer. You overly prepared, you know what I mean? It was so fun to be back in the saddle. And then you got a chance to always, it's good to see a good quarterback, right? You see a guy that like Jalen Daniels, man, I mean, just electric. It's a 6-year guy. He played like he's supposed to play as a guy that's been in college for some time now. He was the youngest quarterback to ever start at Kansas at quarterback at 17 years old, right? So he's been there for 6 years, but he's only 22, right? So he might be younger than a bunch of other guys, but it was really good to get back in the saddle and see some football. Let's go.
Yeah.
And guess what?
The air is
our
changing
boys are
a little
back.
bit. Oh, yeah. It's
Oh,
time.
God.
It's time.
Oh.
And I was at practice. So we'll have a ton to get into today. I was at practice, and they had broken camp, Devin. They were doing New Mexico prep. So they had scout periods going on. So that's another indication that the season's around the corner. I do want to kind of put a bow on what we talked about last week with the NCAA sanctions and the ruling. There was a article from MLive that came out, and there were some quotes from the players. And, we talked about it last week that we expected them to take this in stride. And that's effectively what the quote said. Giovanni El-Hadi said, it's about what's going on here and right now. That's what matters. The coaches said they didn't bat an eyelash, but I think there's one key quote that stood out here. But it's from the linebackers coach, Brian Jean-Marie. He said, once they knew that this year they could go out and chase every dream that they had, our guys were good. They were ready to rock and roll and go practice. And to me, that's indicating like once they knew that there was going to be no postseason bans, they were ready to rock and roll, which I'm reading that as this team feels like they can make a serious run at the playoffs in the postseason. Is that kind of your takeaway, or did you have any takeaways from that article?
Yeah, 100%. When you look at Michigan, and whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent, no matter how everyone else feels, they feel like they were just a quarterback away a year ago from really, really competing. And we saw they beat Ohio State, right? So I think that they have a lot of confidence in the way that they play defense. They've added some pieces on offense. And I think that they believe that's enough to move forward and really capture all the things that they had captured already, right? Excluding Ohio State. They just seem to do that no matter what. But I think they really believe that with that defense and with the upgrades that they have on offense, they really have a real shot to compete for everything. Like you said, all their dreams are intact. And it was just the looming hammer that obviously never existed in the first place that was really it made you a little iffy, a little on edge of like, we've worked so hard and we know we're close, but are we going to be punished now and not be able to, you know what I mean? So I'm really excited for them to get a chance to now truly focus. They don't have to worry about the distraction of something that's not going to happen. They know what it is, and it's something that has nothing to do with them. It's in the pockets of the university, and they can go out and play.
Yeah, it was a rubber hammer or a toy hammer, an expensive hammer. I mean,
we're
talking 8 figures, an expensive hammer, but a rubber hammer nonetheless. And I completely agree with you. So, I was at practice, and you kind of just alluded to it. My big picture takeaways is just to get into the team a little bit here, DG, is that defense is as good as you'll see. And I get to go around with BTN. We saw pretty much every team in the conference. That defensive line, their D tackle, 6 deep. It's 6 deep of future NFL bodies. Derek Moore is a day 2, maybe day 1 pick on the edge. TJ Guy across from him, and there's more bodies there. I think Barham and Ernest Hausman might be, if not are, the best linebacker group in the Big Ten. And
I will go even as far as to say they could be in the country as well. Those two guys together, I mean, because individually they're outstanding, but like they're like that perfect boy band group, right? Like individually you guys are good, but when you put them together, man, that's a real dangerous group of guys.
Yeah, they talk about Barham like he could be a first round pick. So if
Yeah.
he becomes a first round pick, if Derek
Mhm.
Moore becomes, all of a sudden we'll look back on it and say, man, there was NFL players all
Yeah.
across this defense. But what really stood out to me was Bryce Underwood, and that guy, when it's just a special talent, and you go around, you evaluate quarterbacks, you're part of the elite 11, you
Mhm.
are a quarterback, you know what it's like to wear the winged helmet. My perspective is more as a pass catcher, which is to say, man, he's got great velocity, but it's a catchable ball.
Yeah.
Sometimes guys throw the ball really hard, and that wows us, but it's not very catchable. He throws it with velocity, but it's still extremely catchable. He's able to adjust his arm angles. Great athlete stepping up in the pocket. I kind of just want to ask you generally, what are the things that you're most excited to see about for Bryce this fall?
I'm excited to see Chip Lindsey servicing Bryce, if that makes sense.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that it's just what much too much to ask to have a freshman quarterback, put him in that scenario, and we're going to talk a little bit about our first times in the big house and different things like that.
yes,
But as much as it's beautiful in practice, and you know this, Main Street is a little different. It's a little different feeling, especially when the expectations are very high, right? Because it's been such a build up to this point. So I'm really looking forward to seeing Chip Lindsey really protect him and allow him to shine and gradually allow his talent to just flow, right? Because once you get it to flow where it's not being forced, it's just like, hey, these are the throws that I'm making. It's open, I hit them. Designing guys open. When you start to see that, then when it's time to put on the cape and he can show those special traits, now you get the chance to see it, and you don't have to worry about him pressing toward that. It just organically happened, if that makes sense. So I'm really excited to see, obviously, young guy, operation, no pre-snap penalties, different things like that. That's good enough when you first start as a freshman. But I think it's up to the coordinator to make sure this young guy, his talent is on full display, but it's not too much for him to handle.
yeah. So I'm completely with you, and that's why you almost have to talk about the whole team when you're talking about Bryce.
Mhm.
And for Bryce, I got to interview him after the practice and kind of just asked him about his goals and expectations. And he is confident in himself, and he said, "There's you haven't seen a freshman like me," and I can just tell you physically that is an absolute fact. I mean, he looks like he could play tight end. Again, the arm talent is there. But I think what really matters is winning as a quarterback stat. And
Mhm.
he'll have the awareness to say, he gets to practice against them every day. That's one of the best defenses in college football. Hey, I got a great run game and a dominant offensive line. I don't think he should or will, and part of that is Chip Lindsey, have to go out there and prove anything. He has
Mhm.
no need to prove anything other than he's the guy to lead this team to victory. Do you, as a quarterback, are you consciously aware of the bigger picture? Can you kind of take me behind the scenes a little bit about the
Well,
mental side of playing
yeah, of
quarterback?
course. When you're young, you don't think like that, right? You're just going out there. That's why Chip Lindsey is so important. But the thing that is so cool about a quarterback is when you cannot be a part of the game, and that's okay. Right? Let me explain. JJ McCarthy, a lot of times, it was not a part of the game. We know his talent, right? Everybody talks about, well, his arm isn't that strong. When his very first touchdown is rolling right outside the
Right.
numbers and throwing the ball across the field outside the other numbers, don't always want to do that. But if you got it, you got it, right?
Right.
And so it's like, well, yeah, maybe he can't throw. Well, no, that's ridiculous. We've seen him make great throws, and the fact that he was so efficient on third and long, which is the time where they know you're going to throw, and you have to make the play whether you do it with your arm or your legs. But he didn't let the outside noise force him to make mistakes and do things that weren't in the best interest of the team having success. And I'm just telling you, that's hard to do. That's very difficult. I think that is a skill for a quarterback. And the most glaring example of that right now is Jalen Hurts, right? Just
Mhm.
every single time a play needs to be made, it's made. And if he doesn't need to make the play, he allows his teammates to make the play and get paid and do their job, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So I think that is one of the greatest skills because you know how we are. We're quarterbacks. We're vain. We love ourselves. We love everybody else, but we're the only person. The only person that has one position. We're the only one that plays, and it's a reason that we feel the way we feel about ourselves. But are you allowed to put that pride aside and make sure that the best interest of the team is put in front? That's the skill that I think a lot of quarterbacks do not have, especially the really talented ones. And Bryce Underwood is one of those all worldly talents. And if he can have that kind of humility and don't worry about, oh well, we're paying him this and he didn't throw for this. I know we won, but he didn't. No, maybe he wasn't asked to do that, right?
Mhm.
If whatever he's asked to do is if he can capitalize on that, and we go back to Chip Lindsey, that's why he's so important. If he can capitalize on that, I think that he'll be just fine, and this team will be just fine. Because, like you said, man, that defense, obviously, I think on the outsides at the corner position, we have to see. We have to wait and see just to see
Mhm.
how those guys perform. But when we're talking about in that box, I'm talking about in the box and all the way back to the goalpost, man, oh man. Safeties, linebackers, defensive end, nose, tackle. Oh my goodness. They are so good. And you know all about it. I want to ask you a question because you've seen some really good defenses. You've played against
Mhm.
some, you played on teams with some. What does this defense remind you of?
Mm.
Right? And let's leave the outside alone. Let's leave the corners out of it. Let's talk about that inside the box with the safeties involved. What does this defense remind you of?
It reminds me of the great Michigan defenses. It reminds me almost of like the I played against the Philadelphia Eagles. I was part of the Broncos in 2017. We went on the road and played
Mm,
the Eagles at the Link, and they beat us up front. I mean, they were just full of bullies across the defensive line,
yeah.
and it was a brutal beatdown. And Wink Martindale said he's like, hey, we may not have first round talent across the defensive line, but what we have is a bunch of bullies, a bunch of junkyard dogs, and that makes you feel really good, right? Because if a team can't run the ball, suddenly you're hopeless. That's exactly what we're talking about here with Bryce and Michigan's
Mhm.
offense. It starts there because you can put the opposing offense in compromising positions. And I think they have the ability to blitz. A guy like Barham, they talked about
He's one of
maybe
the best
moving
pass
into
rushers in
that's
the
right,
country. Like people don't
a
even know
blitzing
because he's been in
linebacker.
the middle for a long time. He even played middle when he was at Maryland as a young guy, which is pretty impressive. But when they used to put him on the edge, I thought he would be much more effective at Michigan because they would use that skill set. They didn't do it a whole bunch last year, but I would imagine that they're going to use that this year. And we, there are so many talented rushers on that defense,
Yeah.
like that can get on the outside and beat anyone in the country.
Yeah. And on the inside, it's across the board, the inside too. And I'd even throw in Zeke Berry as I think that nickel spot in this defense. We saw
Mhm.
it with Mikey Sainristil still. Wink almost uses that as like that's the chess piece, the Swiss Army knife of the defense. So they have multiple, it's kind of like an offensive playbook in its own sense on the defensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
Like they're an attacking downhill defense where if you're not prepared for their pressure packages, you could really get into trouble. And I think that's going to benefit them as they bring some of these
Mhm.
younger guys along on the outside. So,
Yeah. As much
um,
as I hate to bring this up because, we had some rough times, but remember 2013 Michigan State where,
yeah.
you know, uh, everybody talks about how good their corners were. You know, they're okay.
Mhm.
They were so good because of the guys, Denikos Allen and
Yeah.
Shalik Calhoun. Like these guys were not allowing the quarterback to have any time to do a look off. There's no looking off because if you look off, you come back, you're hit, right?
Mhm.
So you got to get to that first read, and that allows those defensive backs to play very confident. It allows them to drive on passes that they normally wouldn't drive on, and so you just kind of create like a safety blanket, right? So you're exactly right. The upfront pieces in the linebackers, they are going to really help and allow those corners on the outside, similar to the way the run game should help Bryce, is going to allow those guys to develop and get those reps and really feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that stood out is how veteran the defense is. Like these
Hmm.
these are all upperclassmen. So when you're bringing these pressure packages to our viewers, it's important. Like you have an assignment on the defense too.
Hmm.
Everyone needs to blitz their correct gap, and if
Yeah.
everyone's on the same page, now you're bringing pressure with disciplined gap assignments, and that's when it feels suffocating offensively because there's literally nowhere to go. That's when sacks in TFLs happen, and across the board, I mean, it's not just their starters. You look into their two deep. These are veteran guys up front
Hmm.
that are ready to play. And then one guy that stood out, man, and Howard Griffith said this, but Mason Curtis, he's a safety, but I think they could even play him at nickel. They can move him around. He's like 6'4". I was standing next to him, looking at him eye to eye. He is like a Kyle Hamilton of the Baltimore Ravens. I mean,
Hmm.
he was sitting there at about 8 yards. He can cover 15 to 20 yards because of his length. He was sitting at 8 yards past the line of scrimmage and jumped up and picked the ball off when he was going against the scout team offense and made it look really, really easy. So they have like versatility of body types in the secondary as well. But I do want to go back, Devin, because you said one thing. I want to bring it all the way back to the quarterbacks. I thought you made a great point comping Bryce to Jalen Hurts and talking about the importance of Chip Lindsey, because, you know, that's really the key here is for Bryce as a quarterback, you do want to go in and put up those big stats to exactly what you're saying. Every single player that takes the field should have that mentality, but it's going to be on Chip and it's going to be on Sharon to put him in a position to succeed. I think that does start with running the ball. That does start with playing sound defense. That does start now getting into play action, getting your guys involved. And you know what? If he throws it away on 3rd and 6, because no one's open and he comes off to the sideline, maybe people in the crowd are uneasy.
That's
celebrate
the key.
That too, right?
Can
like
you do
that?
And can you not take the big sack because you know that the bigger picture is playing field position and understanding, hey, they beat us on this play. So am I going to be able to throw that ball away, or am I going to try to force it in and make it happen? That's the thing that you have to guard against, especially with a young, talented quarterback. And I think Chip Lindsey also can massage him a bit, right? You talked about play action, getting those opportunities to go play action and show off that big arm, right? Designing things that allows the receivers to get down the field and allow him to put on a show, because he's there to entertain as well, right? He wants to have fun. Yeah. He wants to be a part of the win. And as a young guy, you can't ask for the maturity of a Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is once in a lifetime, right? He was like that as a freshman in college, and people forget he went to the national championship and played really well. He's a different kind of cat, right? Now, I don't know too many guys that can, at that age, have that kind of resolve. However, right, you still got to find a way to build it in to help the young guy have that resolve, have the conversations, but also throw him a bone here or there, right? Like if a tight end, like if Jake Butt is blocking guys on outside zone, he's reaching guys, he's got his face all in the dirt. We got to get Jake Butt a corner. We got to get some Spider 2 wide banana, and he has to go make a one-hand catch. We cannot keep allowing him to put his face on people, because we have to reward that behavior. And I think it's the same with the quarterback, especially when he's young.
Have you seen him throw a bunch?
Yeah,
in person?
Course. Yeah.
So can you put it into context? I mean, how special is he? I mean, you've seen a bunch of guys throw. How would you evaluate him?
So I'm going to be completely honest here. The best thrower I've seen with my own eyes in person, I haven't seen every thrower, obviously, but I've been on the team with Ben Roethlisberger. I've been on the team with Tom Brady. It's Joe Milton, right?
Oh, yeah.
So if you put him at the very and everybody's going, oh, what are you talking about? Listen, guys. If it's shorts and T-shirts, I'm not talking about defense. I'm talking about let's roll the balls out and let's throw. I've never seen him not throw a spiral, and all those the overthrows you may see, those don't exist, right? He's very accurate, pinpoint accuracy, all those different things, right? It's just when you add the other stuff, all quarterbacks are a little less accurate and all these different things. But I'm talking about just throwing the ball. And for Bryce, not quite there yet, which you don't expect him to be. However, he is in that line, right? He can get to that type of talent throwing the football. And then when you add in the brain and being able to read defense and understand what the defense is trying to do to you, it takes you to that next level. And now you become generational. Now we haven't seen a freshman like you when you get to that point.
Man, I if that doesn't get you guys fired up as viewers, I don't know what will. I know you guys are already excited, but I mean, that's what you can expect.
Jake, you do not have to get them fired up.
Right.
You do not have to. They have been. They have been fired up forever. Like I saw something. One of the teammates was saying he was throwing left-handed. He throws just as good left-handed. They said, "Don't worry, we don't." They are already lathered up and ready to go.
Man, well, you're gonna have plenty of this on this show throughout the season and on the rest of the show. We're gonna step aside for our first break, but we're gonna have more Bryce Underwood talk on the other side. All right, welcome back to The Blueprint. We need you to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, smash the follow button, and share with your friends on social media. Week 1 is here. Michigan is taking on New Mexico. And with that, we talked a ton about Bryce Underwood. So, Devin, we're going to go down memory lane a little bit and take me back to your first start. And maybe we can approach this both ways. You probably played before your first official start, right?
Yeah.
Maybe what was your first playing time in the big house like? And then tell me about your first start.
Yeah, so I got the chance to play as a freshman. I played as a sophomore, but my first starting and those first times playing, it was rough. It was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
That first time starting when you're going through the whole week and you know you're going to be a start. Because I remember my first start was at Minnesota. Right, that's a story that we'll tell later on down the road. Maybe we'll get a Minnesota week or something like that. It was it's a lot going on in that start. But my first start in the big house was the next week against Northwestern, and I was already lathered up and ready to play, right? I didn't feel anything. I'd already got all the nerves out the week before, right? And so as we're going through the game, I'm playing well, but Northwestern, you know how they are,
Mhm.
always tight, right? They always kind of give us a
They
really
don't
good
make
game.
mistakes really
They do
either.
not make mistakes, right? And they had Kane Coulter. Remember Kane Coulter back then,
Yes.
running
Yep.
around making plays. So we're going back and forth, right? So we get towards the end of the game, and we got wheel post, right? And I don't the corner kind of he plays me, he runs with the post and then falls off. I throw the wheel, picks it off. It's like 145 maybe left in the game. It's not a lot of time left, right? So, they go 3 and out. Great perfect for me, right? They go 3 and out. They go for a fourth down, no, a third down, and they don't get it with the quarterback power. We stop it by a hair on his chin, just barely didn't get it. And any fan that was there, they'll remember this because the big house was as loud as I had ever heard it on this day. And then they punish the ball, but they give a short punt. No, not a lot of time goes off, and Gallen does a nice job of stopping the ball and not allowing the runs, saving us some time. And then we drop back and we got 35 seconds or something like that. It's not a lot of
Mhm.
time. Walk in the huddle, and I'm just like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, I lost us this football game. I have to fix this. I have to fix this. So I go in all confident. We're gonna go score right now. You know how it is. You go in there and say
Mhm.
that, but it seems very unlikely. You're not even across the 50. You got like a lot of field to go. Well, drop back, and I almost did the dumbest thing in the history of things. I almost started to run, and I would have had 70 yards to go. We didn't have any timeouts to go score a touchdown. Not
Yeah.
It wasn't gonna happen. It wasn't gonna happen. And as I start to run up, I see they left Roy Roundtree one-on-one. I chuck it down the field. My first Hail Mary of my career that I've ever completed. He tips it, catches it. We go down, spike it, kick field goal, go into overtime, get the game winning touchdown, all those different things, right? And I'm telling that story because I had great comfort and I still had, kind of those iffy moments in the game where it's like you lost this game and thank God for the defense. Thank God for Gallen stopping the ball to give me another chance. But I had already played for 3 years, not extensively, but I played, right? I'd been in
Yeah.
the arena and I'd had those kind of, I told the story of not being able to hike the ball, right? I've already done those things a little bit, so I'm not as nervous. And then I played the week before and played really good the week before, right? Had some really explosive, amazing plays. I think I might have been player of the week in the Big Ten or something like that. So, right, I got a lot of juice, a lot of confidence rolling. And for Bryce, he doesn't have that right now,
Mhm.
right? He doesn't have that opportunity to bump his head and see what it is before this first start happens. He's going to have this first start, and it's going to be the first time everybody gets to see him with all the chips on the table, right? It's
Mhm.
going to be the first
Mhm.
time he gets to show himself. And that's why the conversation we had earlier is so important. Understanding and being in the moment and not pressing too hard to prove anything to anybody, right? Just being the best quarterback or whichever version of Bryce that your team needs on that day. So I'm really excited for him. But I know for you as a tight end, even though,
Mhm.
and I think this will lean into how much pressure Bryce might feel and how much the expectation could weigh on him because as a tight end, right, you still feel a little weird in that
Oh
first
yeah.
opportunity to start.
Oh yeah. My first ever playing time was week 1 against Central Michigan. I remember we were blowing
Yeah,
them out in the
yeah.
stadium, and my first ever play was trips left, Y stick, and Shane Morris was in at quarterback, and it was a primed
And
look where
that
I
thing is
knew I
coming
was
in
getting
hot.
hot lefty, and Shane was feeling the pressure too, so it was going to come 150 miles an
It's gonna
hour.
come a little faster.
Oh my
See,
goodness!
that
I
that's
knew
the
I
thing
was
you got to
getting that
guard against
ball.
for a quarterback. When you're nervous,
Yes.
boom, we just
Yep.
woo.
And it did. And it came my way. My heart was beating like my neck was pulsing from my heartbeat. I was so nervous. I caught it. No one was around me. I just fell down right away.
Yeah,
So
it's like, what are you doing? Why are you
right,
falling to the
yeah.
ground? And think about this, Jake. I'd watched you catch stick and turn it up and run so
1,000
much on
times.
on State Street. A thousand
Yes.
times.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, right, there's really no pressure, honestly. We won the game already. You're just getting a chance to play. You catch and fall, and it's like, what? And you probably still right now, if you watch that play, you're like sick to your stomach. Like, what
Oh
am I
yeah.
doing?
100%. But there's kind of that feeling out period, just like you
Yeah.
said with Minnesota. And then the next week we're playing Notre Dame under the lights. It wasn't my first start, but remember Funch caught calf cramps, and then AJ got
Uh-huh.
rolled up on, and they're like, "Hey man,
We're
freshman,
depending on
you're
no
in."
88 now.
Yes, and I did my job. You gave me a few chances. I would have loved to came down with that stick nod, but I caught some passes. I blocked
it was just through your hands at the
It was close.
It was such a good
that.
It was pass interference too, by the way. When you go back and watch it, the dude is pulling your shoulder pads off your body, and you still almost make the catch, but you did. Remember the one? I think it was a naked or something like that. I got on the outside. Yep. I tell you to go back, and I fired in there, and you catch it, get hit by two guys. I'm like, I can trust him.
Yes. And that's
because I knew I could trust you on State Street. On State Street, I loved you. You were great. It was good. Yes. It's like, Main Street's a little different. We're gonna see. And you proved fairly early that you could be trusted. And going back to not only Bryce Underwood, a lot other guys that are getting their first opportunity, even like a Justice Haynes, where he hasn't played in that arena. He's played in a big arena and things like that, but it's different. It's different. And he has some expectations as well to help his quarterback and have a great running game. When you have running backs like Hassan Haskins and guys that come after him, right? Since Hassan Haskins, that running back position, obviously in the past, but it's really under Harbaugh been a position that everybody knows what you're going to get. Khalil Mullings was a linebacker, and he performed well at the running. You know what I mean? So that running back position has a lot of weight on it. So that it's not just Bryce Underwood is going to be under pressure.
Man, and kind of to that, for me, I think what calmed me down, and this is true for freshmen, is I was prepared. Like I was able. The last thing you want to do is take the field and be unsure of what your assignment was, because
I know,
already
because you
hard
ask
enough.
so many questions all the time.
Who did?
You were a psychopath.
Yes. Yeah,
and it's some nervousness, but you want to be over prepared. You want to make sure you know what you need to do.
And Bryce, by all indications, they said, and that's a value. Remember, I was an early enrollee. I graduated in January, so I went through spring ball, and they talk about Bryce like he's a film room junkie. He's constantly in his playbook, and I think man, at a certain point, you just want to get out there and play. And I asked Chip Lindsey about this. I'm like, man, do you feel you can kind of just reach a ceiling in terms of your preparation? Eventually, you just need to go let the bullets fly. And he said, absolutely, which to me, he was indicating that, listen, we have prepared Bryce. Bryce has prepared himself. Now let's go out there and do it in real time against a quality opponent in New Mexico, and we'll learn from there. I just think the preparation is the key, and I gotta imagine Bryce is fully prepared at this point. Did you feel prepared that first start? I know you had been through you said you were later in your career at that point, but did you feel fully prepared going into that Minnesota game?
Yeah, because I remember, you got to think about this. I'm in Coach Borges' offense for a very long time, and remember, I played receiver early in that first season.
You knew it both ways.
So now I have an entirely different appreciation for what's going on, right? I know a lot more about the protection. I know a lot more about what the receivers are, I knew what they were supposed to do, but I knew how and why they had to do it, right? So I can appreciate what they're doing out there, so I can make it a little easier for them. I can understand their plight on the outside, right? So I was uniquely prepared because I had done so much on the team already, right? That year, I led the team in receptions and touchdowns, right?
It was crazy, right? Yeah.
And so I go back to quarterback, and it's like, man, and Denard, I love you, but if I want to go, I want to touch this football if I'm open. You know what I mean? Right? And you understand that plight. It's like, I need to work a little harder to get things, get those guys to football and different things like that. So my preparation was super unique, and most people don't get that opportunity. And for Bryce, it's great that he came in early, but he doesn't quite know the receiver's plight just yet, right? And he's going to get to learn it, right? It just gives you a different appreciation, because I'm just telling you, as a tight end, when you're running this route hard, and these are the worst things. The ball gets thrown to you, you can't even touch it, right? The ball gets thrown to you, and it's just not a very good throw, right? You can touch it, but it makes it increasingly difficult while you're running fast. Maybe it's behind, or it's a little too high, or whatever the case may be. And then the worst one, when you're running wide open down the field, and you don't even get looked at. I'm talking about it's the ones when you practice it all week. You know exactly when they're going to call it. You know exactly what they're going to be in when you call it. You run it. It happens exactly how you thought it would. It's open, and you don't even get looked at. Maybe it's pressure on the quarterback, different things like that. That is the worst feeling, because you got to either jog off the field or jog back. You know me. I was a little tired once I got down. I'm going to have to jog off the field, right? Get a couple breaks. But it's just it's going to be really exciting to see, because he's been around those guys for so long, and I'm sure he's done a lot of extra work with them. It's going to be exciting to see them being on the same page. And I love that they get to go against a New Mexico who it's not a great team, but it's not a terrible team. You don't know who they are, honestly.
Yep.
A season ago, they were a lot more threatening in my opinion. I had them early in the season, and I thought that they were a really good team. Devin Dampier was their quarterback, but he's gone. New coaching staff, all these different things. So I'm really excited to see who they are, what they are. But they're going to try to keep the ball away, keep the offense off the field, right? So that the young quarterback cannot get into a rhythm. And so I'm really interested to see how that's dealt with. And I can't harp on it enough. Chip Lindsey is so important in this football game and moving
100%.
forward. He is so important to the development of Bryce Underwood. I'll give you an example. Jim Zabrowski is the offensive coordinator for Kansas, and I just had their game. And everybody knows Jalen Daniels. I don't think people know exactly how talented he is. He is next level talented.
Yeah.
But also, he has made mistakes, right? He has had some growing pains. And Zabrowski has been so instrumental in making sure, and he not only understands his skill set and all these different things, but understands him as a person and understands what makes him tick so that he knows when he gets in situations on the field, his personality is going to bleed through, right? You are who like everybody thinks they can be something off the field and not be that on the field. If you're the type of person you are, the type of guy you are off the field, that bleeds onto the field, on the game field, right?
Yeah.
So if you're highly emotional, right, you're probably going to be highly emotional in the game, right?
Yeah.
If you don't make good decisions, and that's why you can't be trusted by the coaches, because they know you're not going to make good decisions in the game. Like it's not like you can separate the two. Maybe there are a few guys that are talented enough to separate the two, but most of us normal humans, we can't. And so has Chip Lindsey done the work to understand his young quarterback so that when he's out on the field, he understands what he is, who he is, what does he need help with, how can he help him? I just think that that's so important as you get into this season.
That's such a big
Especially
piece.
with Bryce having all that other stuff, the money, all these different things, all these expectations on him. He needs that buffer and that guy to really help him move it along.
And that's why you go out and get Chip Lindsey. I mean, Kirk Campbell, I know he had worn the title of co-coordinator, but really last year was his first time operating an offense with the first-time quarterback with all those new pieces, and a little bit added up to a lot collectively. Yeah. But with Chip, he's understands play call sequencing. He understands how to work and talk with the quarterback, and
he's not learning on the job.
Right. And let's put a bow on this segment with guys that you are hoping or looking forward to seeing step up around him. And I'm going to throw you for a curveball here. I think Max Bredesen is going to be the absolute key to this offensive system because, man, that guy sets the tone offensively. They were roommates in camp together. He's a two-time captain. He can get in there. He's going to be involved in the pass protection as well. He's a guy that can settle everyone down in the huddle. Third and short, second and short, or first and 10, he could set the tone in the run game. I think guys feed off his energy. He reminds me of like a Mikey Sainristil still on the defensive side of the ball, where Mikey did special things, but there was ripple effects from his energy. I think Max Bredesen's energy in the huddle is a guy that someone just trusts around him, and particularly in third down pressure packages, picking up the blitzes, I think will really help settle down Bryce. But who do you want to see step up?
McCulley, you get number one.
Oh, you
Michigan.
Then you got.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
you got a young quarterback. He needs you to make some plays for him, right? You've been chomping at the bit, right? You left a situation because you want the opportunity to be the guy. Go be the guy.
You're the guy,
right? And so this is something in the offense that we've really wanted to see. Even going back to when we were playing, we didn't throw enough fades when we get down in the red zone. We didn't do it. We didn't do enough. Hey man, let's just give this guy a shot. Right, let's just throw it up and see what happens. You know what I mean? And we don't want to get used to doing it all the time, but there are times where you have a mismatch out there. You need to exploit that. We didn't see that a ton, right? We had Nico Collins, and we see what he's capable of, right? Yeah. He was capable of that when he was at Michigan, but we just didn't use that skill set. That just wasn't who we were as a football team. And so I'm really excited to see because Chip Lindsey's not going to be afraid inside the 5 on first down, second down, whatever the case may be, to go give McCulley a chance to go jump up and take that ball out of the air. So I'm really excited to see how he is instrumental in also helping Bryce Underwood. You don't want to make this all about, hey, we need to help Bryce Underwood. However, that's what it is. A quarterback is the most dependent position on the field. Let me say it again. The most dependent position on the field. You're dependent on the wide receivers to be where they're supposed to be because, contrary to popular belief, you don't see 70% of your throws.
Right.
It's all about the film study, the timing, and knowing where they're going to be, anticipating that, and you don't want to say hoping because you did your work, but it's hope. I hope he's going to be where he's supposed to be. And there's been a number of occasions, we won't get into it right now, where you remember where guys aren't where they're supposed to be. You make a throw, and now you look crazy because it's like, you aren't where you're supposed to be, and it's timing. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
and you just need a guy like every great quarterback. There's not a single quarterback that doesn't have a go-to guy. You're throwing into guys that are covered. Brady
Jeremy
had
Gallen.
Gronk. Jeremy Gallen was your guy. Mahomes has Kelsey.
Yep.
Rodgers has Devontae Adams. Like it's absolutely true. I didn't think Drew Aller had it at Penn State, and that's framed our opinion. Hey, we brought in Donovan McCulley because he is a 6'5" NBA type body. Who can you trust on 3rd and 8 when the game's on the line?
And I'm talking about a kind of trust where I know I'm going to complete this pass. Period. I'm not even worried. If they're playing man-to-man, this is a completion period. Yep. They better do something else, because if they're playing man-to-man, this is a completion, right? I never for 1 second, you remember how we were in practice. I never was on a 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7, whatever, see them in man and first of all, not throw to Gallen, obviously.
Right.
And then secondly, not think I'm going to be able to complete the ball to Gallen. He's going to win, and that's it. And that's how McCulley has to be. Bryce Underwood has to trust he's going to win, right? If all else fails, he's going to win, and I'm going to have somebody to throw to.
Man, I can't wait. It's like all this talk is getting me so fired up. I wish
you were on the game. I wish you were on.
I know. But week 3, I'll be on the game Central Michigan week 3. So, but for now, we'll enjoy our games and our calls, and we'll enjoy watching the boys this Saturday. All right, final break here, and then we'll put a bow on this episode. We'll see you guys on the other side. All right, welcome back to The Blueprint. Final reminder, you guys need to like and subscribe. Smash the follow button across all social platforms at The Blueprint UM. We love having you guys, and go ahead and throw some comments or questions down in the comment section. We'd love to have you guys be a part of this show, but we do have one final topic here that is close to home. Devin, you're a Michigander. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. Michigan has been putting together some good recruiting classes. I'll give Sharon a ton of credit there. I mean, just landed a massive 5-star, I believe his name is Hitter, running back. Yes. Out of the Virginia area, right? Is that correct? Yeah.
I think so.
But here's the only issue, Devin, and maybe it is an issue, maybe it isn't. No recruits in the 2026 class from the state of Michigan. I went through and counted it. Maybe this is not fully accurate, but I thought I counted 3 from the Midwest. I thought it was 2 from Illinois and 1 from Ohio. I know those numbers are generally on track, at least. Is that concerning at all? Does that, move you in any way?
Yeah. So the reason it's concerning for me, and obviously there's still time in that class, but the reason it's concerning for me is because I don't think you can quantify how important it is for guys that are in Ohio, Michigan, in this area that understand the rivalries and what it means to play at Michigan. I don't think you can quantify how important that those guys are to your culture, right? It's a lot less transactional when you have those guys, right? And obviously money's involved, right? Because nobody's just going to come and it's like, I just love it here. I love the tradition. That time has passed, right? Guys want to get paid and they want to be compensated fairly, but it's a different kind of pride that you have about Michigan, right? It's a different kind of pride that you have when you go out and play Michigan State. You go play, even for the Brown Jug, you go play Ohio State, because you've gotten a chance to grow up, maybe not looking directly at it, but you've been kitty corner, right? You've been able to sniff it. You've been able to feel it just a little bit, even if you weren't paying attention. And then let's not even talk about the kids that really did pay attention, that grew up. Aiden Hutchinson, right? And I think that's the perfect example, right? Aiden Hutchinson, if he doesn't come to Michigan, I don't know if we're where we are right now. And that's from the heart. I don't know if Michigan is in the position where they've beaten Ohio State 4 times in a row, 3 Big Ten championships, a national championship, undefeated. Like, I think they should send him a ring, right? Because he didn't get one. He's already, but I just think he was so important to what Michigan was able to create and the pride he has for his university because he grew up, he played a divine child, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. Now, if Michigan doesn't have players, if they don't have players that are good enough, I get that, of course, right? But I think of a C.J. Sadler, right? Corey Sadler Jr. at Detroit Cass Tech, which, Cass Tech, we get all their kids.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No matter who they are, you know what I mean? And I don't know what the situation was, but I just feel like that's a talent that is tough to let go.
Yeah.
It's tough to let a talent get out of the state of that caliber. I've gotten a chance to watch him for a long time, and he is a pit bull. He is a culture guy for sure. And, wish him luck at North Carolina. But that's the kind of thing of like, what could more have been done? And obviously, he's extremely talented. Maybe you think maybe another guy's talented. But when it's equal, kind of, right? When he's just a little bit more talented, I think you side with the guy that's in your state because of that pride factor, because of that culture factor that they can bring when you play those rivals, and they can understand how important Michigan is, not only to the state of Michigan, but to the people that have bled and gave everything for it.
100%. And I mean, gosh, I grew up on the other side of the rivalry. You know, I grew up in Columbus, and, you know, I went to Michigan because I wanted to be a part of everything that meant. And I remember walking into the museum for the first time and just getting this feeling in my chest and in my solar plexus, in my soul, like, wow, like there's over 100 years of greatness and history here. And immediately it was this connection where I was going to dedicate my life to becoming the best football player and student I could be, to be a part of my small piece of that Michigan history. And it's a great point where, okay, hey, you know, maybe you can buy a guy temporarily. Texas A&M bought a lot of guys. They gave the biggest bag, but it was transactional. And at a certain point, like you're attracting guys that are transactional, that don't want to fight or die or give everything for your school. Yeah. And Aiden Hutchinson, even getting Bryce Underwood was so important. A guy of that talent should never leave the state. And the good thing is, hey, listen, they are recruiting talent, but I do think there's something to be said about, you know, staying home, and there's time. There's still time, you know, to build this class out. I mean, what about Pennsylvania, like Illinois? It's Midwest in general for you, yeah.
Yeah, and I think Texas A&M is the perfect example. That's the cautionary tale of they had a lot of talent, and that did nothing.
But it meant nothing. Like
it meant nothing.
There was nothing to bring it together.
It's nothing because, and it was so cool being with Coach Lance Leipold at Kansas, because they've hit home runs. Guys don't leave their program, and they get in the right guys, if that makes sense, right, for their culture. And you see a lot of schools around the country doing it, and it's because, and it's usually the schools that aren't the big schools, right, because they know they can't really compete at that level. So it's like, listen, we're going to make sure that this is not transactional in any way. Right. Maybe a couple pieces will, you know, maybe have some transactional value, and they still have to be guys that can ingratiate themselves into the culture. However, right, maybe we'll give them a little more leeway because of their talent. But for the most part, we need to get guys that align with our values and who we are as a football team. And Coach Harbaugh built something amazing. I mean, unbelievable. You were lucky enough to get a chance to play for him and really see up close what he was able to build, right? And so that's something that should last for a lifetime. Right. And you can't turn into this transactional team and you're just only looking at the ranking, the stars, the different things like that. Kind of forget to do your homework and take guys, but not see what their character is, who they are, why are they leaving their other program, if that makes sense. So that's something that you have to guard against, because that would be a disservice to Jim Harbaugh and all he did. And you were close to I only saw the culture from afar, but you got a chance to live in it. And I would love, as we finish, for you to talk about that culture that was built so that the fans can remember, hey, listen, this is something that we have to protect, and they get a chance to start doing it here on Saturday.
Well, man, I remember, you know, when we were struggling that year in 2014, like I went in Dan Ferrigno, my tight end coach's office, and I was emotional because I was like, man, this is not why I came to Michigan. Like, this is not the standard, or it should never, Michigan should never be 5-7 and miss a bowl game. And it was physically painful. And then Jim Harbaugh came in, and, you know, I don't know how many guys left. It might've just been a handful, if any, but most guys were committed to it. And what Jim did immediately was he put us to the test. He said, okay, you guys love Michigan. That was those famous 4-hour practices, which were really 6-hour practices because he split the team in two. And around that 3-hour mark, it was fully legal and compliant. But yes, you know, he basically drew a line in the sand that said, okay, if you really love Michigan, I want to see how you practice in that final hour. And it became so clear the guys that you could trust and count on. And from that, you start to believe in the process. You start to believe in one another. So then how we talked about Bryce earlier in the show, that shows up on Saturdays down in the fall, and it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. But there has to be a foundational care and emotional tie to the program. You know, I've called Wisconsin games. They completely abandoned what they had built there. And all of a sudden they're recruiting 5 receivers from wherever. And all of a sudden those homegrown linemen and running backs and edge rushers are not coming home, and they lost their way a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't think
they went straight the opposite of what it's always
complete
been.
opposite way. And Michigan's not there. That's not what we're saying. But I think what we're getting at
caution. You don't want to get to that.
You
right?
have
to. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That's an old saying that everybody knows. If it's not broken, don't fix it. You can expand on it, but you don't want to overhaul and lose what you just described, which was amazing. And it's why we're here, and it's why we have this show to be able to talk about Michigan football the way we do, because they are relevant and they are only going up.
Yeah. And with that, I mean, I can't end it in a better way, man. They're only going up.
No. One thing before we go, those practices were so long. You had to be so sweaty. Oh my God,
dude!
Does everybody know how sweaty you are? You're sweating right now, and you have the temperature in your house. It's probably as cold as possible.
That's why I got the hoodie on, because it is so cold. But yes, I mean, I would have to. I did
God.
Car wash, new cleats, new socks, new pants, new jersey, everything. I had to swap it out during our mid-practice break.
Just slush into the locker. Oh my God! You know that new thing they have where you put your pads on it and it dries it. That's because of you.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm just telling you. They should call that the butt machine.
Yeah. My nightmares, your recurring nightmares of being like late to practice. Mine was that it was going to be Y stick on third down and my gloves were sweaty. So,
how many gloves did you go through in a game?
One every quarter. Easily. Yeah.
Insane.
That was my big nervous. Like, hey man, are you nervous about being on television? I'm like, no, not really. Other than like, I know I sweat. I don't want to be sweating on camera and looking crazy up there.
Why am I wet on camera?
Yeah, just because I love the game so much. But
oh man.
All right, man.
That's awesome.
Second one in the books. Week 1 coming up. You got a score prediction? We'll end it on that. What's your score prediction for this weekend?
I say 31-7.
Dang, I was right about there. I was going to say
31-35. And I said, teams, they have some juice early in the game. People still feeling each other out. Maybe some things bounce their way. I think they get at least one score on the board, maybe even 10, but I don't think that would be anything to worry about.
Yeah. I'll do 35-6. So either way, we'll take it. And a good day for Bryce in the offense, man. Yeah. It's great to see you. Another episode coming up this next week. So again, guys, please subscribe.
Jake. No, like, subscribe. But what's the name of our social medias? Because they act like they don't know it. Say it.
The Blueprint UM.
Say it again.
Instagram,
Jake.
TikTok.
Yeah,
the
everything.
Blueprint UM.
Let's go.
YouTube.
Let's go.
You guys are listening to us on YouTube right now, and then smash the
Everybody
comments.
Keeps asking, are you on YouTube? Are you on YouTube? Yes, we're on YouTube.
Everywhere.
We're on everything.
We're everywhere.
Everything. Get there.
And we're off to a great start. And we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week.